Hey, welcome back. Second edition of how to use Vectorworks in our Stagecraft class. Now let's take a quick run around the tool set. Up here in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see the selection tool. As a reminder, you can always return to that selection tool by clicking the hotkey X on your keyboard. It's a great shortcut. So if I'm here in my rectangle tool and drawing away there or some other thing, and I want to get back to selecting something, and I don't want to draw another rectangle, right? I can just click my X, takes me back to the selection tool, and it also puts these handles on the object. Something important to know about those handles, and I guess we've already defaulted to drawing a rectangle, right? These handles have two different ways of operating depending upon what happens to your cursor, your smart cursor, as you hover over those handles. You'll see that there's a plus sign, in which case I can click and drag that element to some other place, maybe snap it to another object or snap it to the grid. But if I have this diagonal slash, I can click on that handle and I can push and pull on it, either side handles, which will maintain some integrity of the opposite axis, or let's say I want to work with both axes together. I can move that handle around until I get it just where I want it, and then click again. Remember, click, drag, click. Now you notice that that was pretty loosey-goosey, not a lot of precision in what I just did, including the format of that rectangle. But you'll recall, I hope, that the holding down of the Shift key gives you a constrained mode. So if I hold down the Shift key, as I'm doing now, and I hover over that corner, I can stretch that rectangle out and back, and it will maintain the format of height and width. So, how do I draw a rectangle with some precision? Well, I can select my rectangle tool, and I can pull it out into a rectangle, and then I will type in, I will hit my Tab key first, Tab. You'll see that this part of the dialog box gets highlighted, and let's say that I want that to be 4 feet. And then I can Tab again and say, 10 feet. Hit my return, and it gives me that rectangle in the size that I'm going to need to draw my 4-foot by 10-foot flat for the assignment. Okay, but you'll notice that I haven't quite completed the activity. I've only hit that Enter key once. I'll have to hit that Enter key twice to confirm that's exactly what I want to do. I can hit my X, takes me back to my item selection tool, and I can drag that wherever I want to put it. Okay. So let's take a quick look at the contextual menu that shows up when I select that rectangle tool. It defaults to drawing from the corner, but I could actually draw from the center if I wanted to. And there are other contextual elements to that drawing tool as well. Let's go to the line tool. Right, the line is the simplest of the drawing elements. It's the design element that many other design elements are made out of. And you'll notice here, because I've used it last, that my line width is 0.25. That's a pretty standard object line weight. Let's click back to X for a moment. When you first open your program, it'll probably say something like 0.05 as your line width or your line weight. And that's not going to do it for us. When it prints, it'll be just about an invisible line. We want to create object lines, so we'll click on this pull-down menu. This 0.05 is actually a pull-down menu. Select that at 0.25 as our line width. Okay. And as long as we're in the object selection tool, that will become our line weight until we tell it something else. All right, so let's use our single line tool. Notice now that my contextual menu on this ribbon has changed. I can constrain the line to rigid 90, 45, 30 degree angles, or I can draw as I normally do with an unconstrained line that I can then constrain by holding down the Shift key. Right? I can draw wherever I want to here, or I can hold the Shift key down and make it snap to various degrees. I can draw from the middle of the line, or I can draw from the end of the line. That's usually the way that it works for me. So I can draw a line, I can draw another line that will begin at that snap point because my snapping attribute is on, and I can snap back to it if I want. Okay. But that's not very much precision, right? So I want to click and drag, and then let's say that I want this line to be 8 feet 3 inches long. Type that, a tab, type that into the length, hit my return, and just as with the rectangle, hit my return again. And now I've got the line exactly the length that I want it. Notice too, when I hover over various parts of that line, my cursor wants to snap to them, so it's very easy to draw another line from the midpoint. Let's say that I wanted that to be 2 feet 6 inches. Okay. I believe in the last video I showed you how to set up the scale of this this layer of the drawing, but in case you've forgotten that, I'm going to right-click on my mouse, and it gives me the option to give the active layer a particular scale, and ours is 1/2 inch. We're going to be using that on our architectural D-sized paper for the drawing of your flat. Another tool that I use quite a bit is the double line tool. Now, when you first open a brand new instance of Vectorworks and you haven't used these tools yet, it will, in its contextual menu, default to something that is create lines. And here's what happens when I use create lines. I'll draw 2 lines 3.5 inches apart from each other, and then I'll click X, gets me back to my selection tool. Then I can select either one of those lines and do something with it. I can turn it, I can lengthen it, I can do whatever I like, right? Erase it. When I'm drawing flats, when I'm drawing toggles, when I'm drawing boards, when I'm drawing most things with the double line tool, I really want a polygon that is a particular width across its face or across its edge. And so I will typically come into the tool preferences in my contextual menu and say, no, when I use this tool, I want to create polygons. Now here's a good example of where your navigation bar and your context ribbon saves you some steps. I can open up the preferences and set the separation at 3.5 inches, or I can just set it in here and make that 2 inches or whatever I like. It doesn't like 2 inches in a row, so I'll fix that. All right. So now my double line tool allows me to click, drag, and then type in 4 feet 0 inches, or I can just type in 10 feet. Sorry, I think I'm imagining that I'm doing other things with that line. Or I can try to set it right at 4 feet. That's really hard. Something nice about the object info palette, though, is that if I come back into that and I want to give it a specific length, say exactly 4 feet 0 inches, I can enter that information up in the object info palette and manipulate that object again. Okay, so those are the three tools that you're going to, 3 of the 4 tools you're going to primarily use for drawing your flat. But remember, we're going to draw a working drawing for the shop. So we're going to show where the toggles are, we're going to show where the corner blocks are. And in order to draw a corner block, I'm going to want to use my Polygon tool. That's the 4th row down, 3rd column over. And I can click and drag and say, oh, let's zoom in on that to give myself a little bit more precision. Let's say that I want that 9 inches, and then I can tab that and return. And then I can click again, say that's 9 inches, return that, didn't really have to tab it. Click at its end, come back to its corner, and now I've drawn a triangle, a form that I'm going to, a 9-inch by 9-inch triangle that I'm going to use to build my corner blocks. So those are the primary tools that you're going to need to build the shapes, forms, and draw the lines that you're going to need to make your flat. In the next video, we'll take a look at how to get these things extruded and how to use them to attack the problem that you've got at hand. Okay, see you soon.